Good morning, MASH, the Afterjog Thoughts. My name is Uyonela Mashalaba, aka the iceberg that never broke. It is at Mashalaba Speaks on Twitter, and on IG you'll find me as the man Yonela. Today, guys, was very, very difficult to jog. It is raining, the snails are out, and you know what happens when the snails are out. I think everybody just hates that sound of a dying snail. When you actually break that shell, it is so terrible. You actually do feel like you're actually killing something. So today was a bit difficult for me to jog, trying to dodge the snails on the road. So today I did a bit of jogging, also did a bit of cycling. That planned out very well. Today we have a very, very surprising topic, political topic that's at hand. You'll hear about it. I don't think it planned out very well for some political sections of South Africa, and then for some it planned out well, but I will go on and discuss that in the following section. If you remember, at the beginning of the year, the FF Plus president, Peter Groenewald, actually made an application with the Electoral Court to set aside the BLF as a political party in South Africa, stating that Section 4 of the Constitution of the BLF explicitly excludes white people from participating in the BLF and its electoral processes. The Electoral Court around March dismissed that application of the FF Plus, saying that the BLF's constitution does not, in fact, explicitly exclude white people from participating in the BLF activities. So the BLF was then allowed to participate in the May elections. But as a turn of events, the BLF could not garner enough support to place itself in parliament. And then later on, the Electoral Commission then agreed to say that no, it is in fact true that the BLF's constitution contravenes Section 16 of the Electoral Commissions Act, and that the BLF must then be dismissed from being a political party or participating in the electoral process or political processes of the country. So the BLF was then set aside as a political party. So when I read the constitution of the BLF, because I read, I think it's Section 4 of the BLF constitution, and it's there that they are a black political party, which also would, in the interpretations of Steve Biko, include the so-called colored communities and the so-called Indian communities. What they don't do is explicitly, so the commission was correct in this case, that they do not explicitly exclude certain ethnicities, particularly white people, from participating in their activities. Then you would then ask yourself, how then did the commission reach the understanding that the BLF's constitution contravenes Section 16 of the Electoral Act? So I went back to my law days and I tried to understand, and then I remembered that when there's an ambiguity in a legal framework, to clear that ambiguity, it is prudent to go back to the drafters of the actual legal framework to understand where their minds were at when they were drafting that particular section, to understand what the intention of that particular section was. And in this case, the drafters of that section of the BLF's constitution, as I obtained it from the BLF website, would be Omnitama themselves. The problem then comes to say that if Omnitama are the people that drafted the constitution of the BLF, how then would Omncitama react to that particular section? Umncitama particularly has on several occasions uttered that the BLF in itself is not a party that would entertain white people and even white participation in their activities. So for me, that is where the main problem came from. The problem was not the constitution of the BLF in itself. It was the mindset of the drafters of the constitution of the BLF at the time when they drafted the constitution. And from Umncitama's utterances, it seems to indicate that the intentions of the drafters of that particular constitutional section had intended to limit the participation of white people within the BLF and its electoral processes. So, with that in mind and that contextual background, it would then be sensible why someone would come to a conclusion that says that the constitution of the BLF does in fact exclude white people from participating. So in essence, it was Omncitama's own crafting, or it was Omncitama's own sword that ended up causing the decapitation of the BLF. So what are the lessons here? So for me, the lessons here are that at all times, politicians should learn to balance politics of support and politics of interest. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that politicians on a daily basis make certain utterances that may contravene the policies and constitutions of their own political parties or the constitution of the country in an attempt to garner support for their political parties. Né? But it is also important that they balance those politics of support with politics of interest, because politics of interest are those politics that are outside the jurisdictions of the political parties or the politicians themselves. Because once they utter or make certain utterances, there are bodies or interest partners within communities that are listening to react, and FF Plus is that group of interest that was listening when the BLF was making those particular utterances to say that as a political parties, they exclude, particularly explicitly exclude white people from participating in their political operations. So it could have been FF Plus, it could have been someone else. There are many interest groups that are present in a country at a particular time. So I think the failure to balance that, whether it was intentional or unintentional, led to the demise, at least in the political setting of official political settings of the BLF. So I think for me, the BLF could have taken some legal advice on that matter, because it's not their constitution, in my opinion, that necessarily resulted in them being excluded by the Electoral Commission, but the utterances of the drafters of the constitution. And EBLF has always been very dogmatic, unable to shift its position when circumstances change. So whether that is good, maybe the followers of BLF might think that is credible, but it landed them in this particular case. And then you might even want to ask yourself about whether the BLF actually does believe that it would survive without other ethnic groups or racial groups within their activities or not. That is a political question, and maybe even a more ideological question, you know. So EEBLF was bound to find itself in this particular setting because of its dogmatic approach to politics. And then you might even ask yourself whether Grunewald himself actually does have interest in this particular participation of white people. And I actually doubt that the FF Plus has interest of white people actually participating in the electoral processes of the BLF. So for me, it seemed to have been more a political move than anything. And again, on politics, I don't know whether this would actually help the FF Plus in any ways, because I don't think the FF Plus and the BLF actually necessarily compete with constituencies. So, in the event, for example, that the BLF does not find its way back into politics, in the event that their dogmatic approach to politics ends up superseding logic, then they won't come back to participate in elections, because they won't change their discriminatory section in their constitution, and those supporters won't go to the FF Plus. They most likely to join the EFF or the ANC, in my opinion. So I don't know politically whether this was a good move for the FF Plus, but constitutionally and legally, it was the right move to make. And I don't know why constitutional experts at the beginning actually said that the BLF would lose. I mean, the FF Plus would lose. So maybe because they were just analyzing the constitution and not everything contextually. And that's where I think even the Electoral Court messed this whole thing. That when you're interpreting law, it's not just about reading what is in front of you, but it's also important to understand the context of the law in itself, to understand or interpret what it actually means. So that was my opinion on the matter. And yeah, it will be interesting to see where Umncitama is going to go from now, or where the BLF is going to go from here. So where to from here? He said we will probably find out on the 4th of November, when they go for their elections, party elections, and they will then decide the policy direction of the BLF. Again, those are just my views, so please just comment below and tell me what you think about the particular matter. We know Umncitama has brought some interesting points in the political framework of the country, advocating for land to be returned back to its rightful owners. And the rightful owners, he said, are black people. He has also inspired certain frameworks in the EFF. So it would be interesting to see where he goes. We all know Umncitama was an academic before joining the EFF. So it would be interesting to see where he goes. Again, my name is Uyonela Mashalaba, aka the iceberg that never broke. Those are just my views. Don't forget to like, guys, please like, subscribe as well, and just comment below. I'll see you next time. Take care, guys. The competition, by the way, for the t-shirt is still on, and we are reaching that 100th mark, so the t-shirts are going to be out soon. Look out for that. I'll see you guys next time.